As far as outcomes, you said, we're at kind of like over 80% for PNN ablation as it relates to like chronic rhinitis symptom scores, right? And that's out to like 3 years now. Is that right? What's the data on that?
Yeah. So, the Rhinair device is now out to 4 years, and the Neuromark, it's unpublished. It's under review right now, is out to 2 years.
In your practice, how do you counsel patients as far as what to expect? Like, when are they going to feel better? And,
do they need to do saline?
Yeah.
Are we still rinsing afterwards?
Of course we're rinsing. I'm a rhinologist. Everybody, don't you rinse? Come on, go.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just asking.
Yeah. So I'll tell them, I actually tell them you may get a little bit worse before you get better, because I am causing trauma to the tissue. That trauma is going to cause some swelling. You're definitely going to get a stuffy nose, no doubt about it. Plan to have a stuffy nose for 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. You may even have some increased postnasal drainage during that time. It's okay to continue to use your nasal medications, your ipratropium, your nasal steroids, your nasal antihistamines, all that's fine. And I do have them irrigate. And I have them irrigate regardless of what device I've used, because probably 10 to 20% of the time, a crust, a scab can develop back there. Even without a needle to inject, you can just get some crusting back there, and the irrigation lessens the chance of the crusting. And I'll have them irrigate twice a day for 2 weeks, and then once a day for 2 weeks. I'll see them back about 2 months later for a visit. And during that visit, I'll do a nasal endoscopy again, just to make sure there's not a crust or scab back there. And again, about 20% of the time there is.
If there is, do you need to debride that?
Yeah, it's super easy to fish it out. Yeah, just with little alligators. I don't consider that a debridement, because it takes like 10 seconds.
Do you worry about like causing bleeding, or do you just tell them to just keep doing some irrigation and let it fall off on it? So like, I'm just getting, thinking about like bleed risk. And I guess, how do you think about that, have the risk of them having like a posterior bleed?
Yeah, we should talk about that. Getting back to the crust though, no, by the time that, 2 months out, that crust is just barely hanging on, and it just needs a little wiggling to slide it right out. Yeah. But even if it was 2 weeks, as long as it wasn't firmly attached, I would wiggle it out with an alligator forceps, just like after sinus surgery, and pull it out.
So you first see them at 2 months out.
Correct. Yeah. We'll call them the next day, just after every surgery. We'll call them and check on them and make sure they're doing okay. But yeah, I've found, with the research studies, we were seeing them, early on at 1 week, 2 week, 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. And like, there's just nothing that you're really doing. So, why waste the patient's time and money to come in and say hi to us? They have to heal up. And I think it's, we were talking about tonsillectomies earlier. And it's like, why see them at a week out? They're going to be miserable. Just let it go. By 2 months out, they're pretty happy.
That was the exact thought, the same patient I thought of as well just now. But
yeah. All right. So the bleed risk, right? There's, it's a procedure, and it's a procedure along the posterior nasal nerve, but there's also a vessel back there. This sphenopalatine artery and the posterior septal artery are back there. So there have been significant bleeds, posterior bleeds, from all of the devices, all 3 devices on the market. A study, Mas Takashima and his group showed that the risk was about 2%, which seemed to be really high. Neurent looked at their studies. There was 1 out of 250 patients, so like 0.04%, something like that. And the interesting thing about the bleed risk is that on average, it occurred 20 days after the procedure. So that's, beyond what we would normally tell someone with a sinus surgery or septal turb surgery. Is like, whoa, this is, 3 weeks later, you're getting a significant bleed that's probably going to require operative intervention, not just a posterior pack. So that's something I do tell my patients. I tell them 1%, and sometimes I'll say 1 to 2% risk of significant bleeding that can occur on average 3 weeks after the procedure. There's no reason not to tell people. I think it's, they deserve to be informed of this. And also knowing if you're covering a patient who had a PNN ablation and the ER calls you and says, hey, this patient's, bleeding significantly posteriorly, you're going to need to go in and take care of it. It's not just going to be a posterior pack for a couple days. Somebody's going to have to take care of it at some point. So the question is, well, what's happening? Are we is a crust forming that then is sloughing off like after post-tonsillectomy bleed, or is it causing a type of pseudoaneurysm with one of the vessels back there? The answer is we don't know. Fortunately, the risk rate right now is low, and there have been studies that have, so anecdotal studies really for the FDA, that have looked at arterial injury, and in the studies that have been done, it doesn't show that the device, and I can only speak on the NeuroMark device, I don't know the safety studies for the others, but the NeuroMark device does not injure the artery. We'll see.
Yeah. Do you tell your patients to like not travel for those 3 weeks? You know, like don't be on a transatlantic flight, or don't be camping in the middle of nowhere?
I do. So traveling, I say it is fine. You can travel when you feel ready for it. But I tell them just don't be in the backcountry for a month. You know, if you're going to take a whitewater rafting trip down the Grand Canyon, just wait a month. You know, this is an elective procedure. We can do this when you know you're going to be home or at least around medical care, not out in the wilderness.
Do you ever have them have other like sinus precautions, like nose blowing or weightlifting, anything like that for the 4 weeks, or that kind of stuff? Or no, I don't know.
No. So standard for me, even in my sinus patients, they can blow their nose. Gentle nose blowing is fine. There's a study that shows that it's safe. Peter Wong did that study. And yeah, Ashley, you're making fun of me in my
Not going to do it.
literature. Say it.
My patients, no nose blowing. I'm not ready to take the risk.
They'll love you,
This
though.
is on the
Hey,
heels
gentle
of me
nose
taking
blowing.
care of a
They all
nosebleed last
do it
night, though.
anyway, who are you kidding? You know they blow their nose. But weightlifting, so I tell everybody I don't want them lifting enough to where their forehead blood vessels pop out. That's my cue. And that's true for sinus surgery too, because everybody's different. You know, you guys can probably bench like 235, no problem.
I was going to say, every session there's veins popping out. I don't know if I know how to work out any other way. You know,
Heavy or go home.
heavy or go home.